Someone who is cool. Someone who is cool. Someone who is cool. Close but kind of meatless, like actors who play Jesus in movies of the week. What other people wish for oozes from my every pore. I'm the coffee, not the sleep. And I'm the song about the song that once said something new. I'm a scandal that's unfolding. I'm a picture that I'm holding of someone who is cool. Someone who is cool. Someone who is cool. I'm a picture someone who is cool. Someone who is cool. Someone who is cool.
Four men in a rock and roll band. Fly at night, in the morning we land. Fly at night till we're satisfied.
Well, if you recognize that music, that is because it comes from our new Think Bite podcast that we launched just in March. Welcome, everybody, to our 2021 virtual motorcycle safety campaign launch. This is the first time we are able to hit the entire province of Alberta live, which is pretty cool. Little note, the chat box is open for you to put questions in if anything comes up. We will likely not be able to get to those questions today, but we will ask our panelists to answer them at a later time and get them posted up on our Facebook, social media, and on our website. What to expect on today's show? Well, we're going to talk about tips for drivers, riders, mechanical, little take it to the track, some stuff with gear. There might be some disturbing images, and there's going to be a lot for us to learn. So, welcome to everybody who is tuning in virtually. Just love to see all the pictures up there of everyone. Hi. Oh, there's lots of AMSS shirts on there, which is nice to see. If you ever wanted to buy one, you can get them on our store, on our website. I'm going to introduce you to our panel. We have Deputy Chief Tawfik from the Calgary Police Service, who is joining us today, as well from Calgary, Stuart Brideaux, who is a public education officer with AHS and EMS. On stage with me today, I've got Sean Burke, representing Vintage MX Alberta Motocross, and Spencer Bevan from Riverside Honda and Skidoo. Welcome, everybody, to the show.
Thanks for having us. It's awesome.
Love that we have our good Calgary representation. We're split evenly. This is awesome. So, as you know, there's supposed to be somebody else who is on the show with us today, and that was the Honorable Ric McIver. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend last minute. Something has conflicted with that. We did receive a video message from him, which we'll play for you now.
Good morning. Congratulations to the Alberta Motor Safety Society for your 2021 campaign launch. I apologize I can't be with you here in person this year. Nothing would make me happier than to roll up on my bike. As Transportation Minister, my top priority is to make sure that everybody gets home safe from Alberta's roads every single time they go out there. And of course, May is Motorcycle Safety Month, where we'll be reminding Albertans to watch out for motorcyclists on the road. Motorcyclists, unfortunately, account for 1 in 10 deaths or injuries from motor vehicle collisions. My friends, it's up to all of us, riders and drivers, to drop that number to 0. AMSS continues to be a great champion of motorcycle safety. Throughout the year, you remind Albertans how they can stay safe on our roads and how they can help keep motorcyclists safe also. We're proud to partner with you to raise awareness amongst both riders and other drivers. I was happy to join your recent podcast version of Think Bike just a week or two ago. Be sure to check out the podcast and to hear other podcasts about everything from how to prepare for spring to the latest in motorcycle products. Thank you once again for the invitation. I wish everybody a long riding season with good weather, and I hope to see you out there. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you, Minister, for sending that message in. One of the things that we did talk about on the podcast with him, which was launched or dropped last Wednesday, is licensing. As you all know, in the last couple of years, it's been a little hard to get a slot in there. As of January this year, there are over 200 examiners available, so there will be more slots on there to get your road test done this year. So get booked in and get legal for your riding. We are going to go to the next topic of gear. ATG-ATT is an acronym you always see. All the gear, all the time. We believe in this mantra, and we hope you do too. Yes, we know adults can make their own decisions, but we will always give compelling reasons as to why this is important. Please be advised the following story contains graphic images that may upset some viewers, therefore viewer discretion is advised. We hope this inspirational individual could have been here herself, but a conflict again came up last minute, and it was decided to tell her story anyway. Meet Brittany Morrow, currently 36 years old and lucky to be alive. In 2005, at just 20 years old, Brittany met a boy at a party who then invited her to go for a ride. Like so many young ladies out there, Brittany hopped on as a passenger wearing nothing more but a helmet, jeans, and a sweatshirt. At 120 miles per hour or 193 kilometers an hour, they went down. Brittany tumbled 522 feet down the highway. The result, third-degree road rash over 50% of her body. She spent 2 months in the hospital enduring 9 surgeries, a life-threatening blood clot, and 11 infections. She had to relearn how to do all the basics in life, like sitting up, walking, and even brushing her hair. She still suffers to this day with physical and mental issues from essentially skinning herself alive. However, as a self-proclaimed road rash queen, Brittany did get on a motorcycle herself, took up road racing, and has become the leading advocate for injury prevention by creating a web-based campaign, Rock the Gear. We thank Brittany for allowing us to tell her story, and we hope that it's something that you guys can understand where gear is super important. With that, we're going to turn to Stuart Brideaux. He is our resident paramedic panelist today. As a first responder, is this a common thing for you to see out there for types of injuries?
Yes, unfortunately it is. At any point when someone meets the road at that velocity for that length of time, that type of physical injury known as road rash or road abrasion can be very, very common, unfortunately.
Could you help us understand what third-degree road rash actually is and how detrimental that could be to you?
Yeah, in short, unfortunately, third-degree road rash is the complete loss of all the dermal layers. In other words, all of the skin has been removed, and it usually takes other things with it, including fat, muscle, and bone. In the case of Brittany's as well, in that photograph, as graphic as that is after a certain period of healing as well.
What kind of gear do you think would prevent that, and do you think just regular jeans, everyday jeans, are suitable pants?
Again, too, unfortunately, in this case, and that Brittany's not able to speak first person for this. She was wearing jeans, as is mentioned in the video when that occurred, and I don't think it took the full 500 feet, unfortunately, for that third-degree road rash to occur. So it's evident that jeans are not a reliable source of protection for that. Proper leathers or riding pants, of course, are going to be the number one thing you want to wear.
And of course, a proper armored jacket, gloves, boots, the whole deal, right?
Yes, you're correct. Head to toe. Yeah, everything you can do all the time. Short rides or long rides. You don't know necessarily when something may occur. Unfortunately.
Exactly. Why are helmets so important? And help us maybe understand a myth out there is a full face helmet may increase your chances of breaking your neck. What can you say to something like that?
Yeah, when you look at the data and see how this breaks down, first of all, if you look at the mechanism, in other words, the methods of how someone may get injured, whether they have a full face or a regular helmet, the injury is going to be catastrophic either way. This is the problem. The idea that a full face helmet may increase a neck injury is really not that substantiated, and the risk of not having that full protection around it just leaves you open again to sustain those sort of traumatic, potentially road rash or a loss of disfigurement or tissue right off your face without having that full protection. When you get into mechanisms that high, in other words, that type of injury or the amount of distance you may be going or the velocity you may have been struck, the key thing is that you had any helmet on at all, but a full face helmet is going to be number one.
Do you have any opinion on Brittany's ability to get back on a bike and actually take up road racing and become an advocate?
You know, it's wonderful to see her become an advocate for all the safety gear and certainly what's happened. Only she can have that experience for life to understand what she's been through. But for her to be an advocate and a champion for the proper gear all the time is wonderful to see, and I'm glad she's able to return to riding.
Yeah, it's definitely a story she likes to tell often, shares it a lot on her social media. With her getting into track, that's going to turn us to Sean Burke and his reason to be here. So normally when we talk about Take It to the Track, it's usually about the Edmonton Motorcycle Road Racing Association, or new this year, Motorhead Track Attacks is offering track days as well out at both Castrol and Stratotech up here in Edmonton. Another option that often gets overlooked is motocross.
And why is that?
I don't know, but so fun. So can you tell us a little bit about what motocross is and how long you've been involved in that?
Wow, well, most people start when they're kids.
Yes.
You know, you're 7, 6, 5, 4, whatever, and they start on tiny little dirt bikes. I had bought an acreage in 2005 or 6, and I thought, you know, I'm living in the country, I should probably own a dirt bike of some kind. I'd never ridden a motorcycle, and I bought this motorcycle right here in front of us here. It's a 1974 Hodaka Dirt Squirt. I had no idea what I had bought, but I bought it, and it didn't look like this. Taught myself to ride on this bike out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And thought, okay, maybe I could add a little modern bike. So I picked myself up a 1999 RM252 stroke. And in 2008, I started racing with the Alberta Old Timers Motocross Association, modern bikes. And, oh gosh, I can't remember the year, probably because of the wreck, but I had a bad crash with them out at Devil's Lake. We were coming into the first corner. Now you got to imagine there's about 25, 30 bikes on the line.
Yeah.
And I've had a good start. And I never get good starts. And I can see our president actually on the screen there. I'm pretty sure that's Michelle there up at the top. She'd gladly tell you, I never get a good start. But I got a great start. So into the first corner, I'm in about 5th. And a guy clips the barrel and takes me down. In my head as I'm laying there, I still had the sense to, oh my, there's probably about another 20 bikes coming. Well, hit me in my chest. I ended up breaking some ribs, collapsed a lung, ended up in the hospital for a couple of days. I thought, you know, maybe what I'll do is start racing the old bikes, probably a little safer. I don't know that there's any truth to that. But in 2010, the Vintage Motocross Association for Alberta started. And that's when I got the bug bad. I started racing this goofy little thing. Now imagine a 230, 240-pound guy on a little 100cc dirt bike. I wasn't incredibly fast. I'm still not that fast, but I've lost some weight. I plan on bringing this one back out. But now I've got 12, 13, 14 bikes now.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and it is
I'm
the
sure
most
your wife
fun.
loves that.
She'll tell you right now that both of these here that I've brought today are for sale. They're not for sale. Don't call me. Don't DM me. These bikes are staying. I actually had to dig this one out of my basement. I've got 3 bikes usually in the basement at any given time.
There's no better place for a bike to be than in the basement.
In the basement.
Tell me what kind of, like, obviously all your broken bones and stuff, what kind of gear do you need to get into motocross?
Well, when I first bought this, I had nothing but a helmet. That's all I had. I didn't have jerseys, I didn't have pants, I didn't have boots. I'd just show up to the track wearing running shoes. But I wasn't racing then. When I started racing, obviously you need the boots,
Yep.
pants, jersey, gloves, goggles, helmet. And I know we're going to be talking about making sure you've got fuel in your bike. That's one of my issues as well. I've run out of gas on the track many times. And 9 times out of 10, it's always way in the back somewhere.
Of course.
In like a deep spot
Yeah.
where I've got to push it up a hill. And because there's nobody to come get you. Right here on the middle of the track out in the back somewhere. But yeah, you know, your standard motocross gear is always a good idea.
So you talked a little bit about, normally people start on dirt at a young age, out on the farm. And we here in Alberta have a program called Honda Junior Red Riders.
That's right.
So you know a little bit about this, but it's typically for kids 6 to 12. I guess there are some adult programs as well, but tell us a little bit about what that program is.
Well, you know, obviously getting the proper training. Like I've had no training. When it comes to riding dirt bikes, I have no training. That's why I come in last every single race. But you know what? When I cross the finish line, I have the biggest smile on my face.
Yes.
When I hit a jump and I land without wiping out. Again, that big smile, and you'll hear me, woohoo! Like I yell and scream, and I'm having the time of my life out there. But getting kids started at an early age, knowing how to do these jumps, how to corner, how to brake, all that stuff is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I don't know any of that stuff. So you're best staying away from me when we're on the track together. I'll let all the fast guys go ahead.
So the kids could beat you.
Oh, kids could clean my clock any day of the week, absolutely. But I highly recommend this program. I've actually seen it done out at Bump MX out near Busby. They do the program out there, and it is a fantastic program. If your kids are, you know, because I was that kid too when I was little. Come on, I want to ride a dirt bike, but it can be expensive. It's not a cheap sport. So yeah, getting involved with the Alberta Junior Riders through Honda is a fantastic program.
So that program is actually offered out of Calgary, Edmonton, and Red Deer. And if you're interested in getting your kids involved in that, it's albertarides.com. That website does actually explain their COVID restrictions for this year. They are running. It's selling out quickly because it is a lower amount of people who are allowed to participate. If you want to know more about the vintage motocross, so
we would love to have you.
V as in Victor, mxalberta.com. We'll post all these links up later. They're also on our website under links. We will add the vintage motocross link to our website for options for take it to the track. Thank you so much for bringing these bikes in. I've been sitting on the little Yamaha quite a bit and want to take it out for a ride.
Yeah, that's a fun one. That's my 1973 Yamaha RD350. It's a 2-stroke, so you don't see them very often. It's loud. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of loud motorcycles. I can't help it. That's just how this bike is.
Well, it's older than me, so there's something to say about that.
I wish I could say it was older than me, but it's not, so thanks for that.
So we talked a little bit about, you know, roadworthiness, tips for, well, Honda and everything. So we have Honda Riverside and Skidoo. Spencer's here. No better person to talk to us a little bit about what those pre-ride tips are before you take your bike on a road to make sure it's roadworthy. So what are some tips you can give our viewers out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's more to checking out your bike than just making sure it starts and hopping on it. Biggest thing people always overlook is the tires. So your tire tread, your tire pressure, because we're not like cars. You don't have the backups of your 2 other tires there. If one goes, you're pretty hooped. So yeah, tread and pressure, definitely. You want to make sure anything that helps you be seen or heard is working. So, you know, your brake lights, headlights, signals, hazards, your horn as well. That's a pretty big one because I'm sure it's not a unique experience to me where I've had people, you know, try and merge into me in the middle of a road but out of nowhere. So horn's good for that. And you're also going to want to make sure your brake fluid, and if you have a hydraulic clutch, your clutch fluid is good. Make sure it actually holds pressure and you have some resistance in the system, because if there's no pressure in there, you're not going to have any brakes. So that's a pretty big one. You're also going to want to make sure your wheel bearings, steering linkages, and suspension linkages are all good to go. Because, at best, it'll make the bike feel sloppy and imprecise, and at worst, could send you off the road if it has a catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to make sure there's no play in any of those. And your control cables, you're also going to want to make sure that those are good. So big one is your throttle cable. You don't want your accidental cruise control coming on when you got to slow down for your exit.
People have cruise control?
What?
What?
Well, on bikes newer than 73 at least. But,
Thanks for
yeah.
all the stuff you're mentioning. I'm like, my bike doesn't have that. My bike doesn't have that.
So basically anything that helps you stop, go, steer, be seen, or be heard. Those are the biggest things.
And then the last thing on that list,
Sean,
Sean,
would you like
do you
to
want
speak
to
to that?
talk about
Well,
that
here's
one?
the thing. My 1973 has no gas gauge. It has a full area, and then you've got your reserve. So I always, you have to remember when you're filling the tank to make sure you have it on the full area,
Yeah.
because if I have it on reserve and run it dry,
Then you have
I'm
nothing.
in big trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's no gas gauge, so I don't really go anywhere. I just kind of ride around St. Albert, and that's about it.
So we're just going to make sure we have fuel, though, when we go out. And,
Absolutely.
And your wife was just a phone call away, and maybe she'll come rescue you.
And I do the same thing with the dirt bikes, too. I have run, like I told you, I've run out on the track so many times. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I'm actually that guy. They know me as the guy who runs out of gas or shows up with bikes that just don't work.
So one thing that we'll also mention to this is if you're going out on a group ride with your friends, you want to show up with a full tank of gas to get going, because you don't want to be that guy who shows up with nothing, and then in the ride you're like, I gotta stop for gas now. So those are some great tips to get your bike roadworthy. We're gonna throw now to Chad, who I was told to call Chad, our resident traffic expert, on some tips for drivers and riders. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, thanks, Liane. Certainly, everyone who's online today is probably very experienced and really understands the risks as good as anybody. But it's always a good reminder to think about some of the things that can be done to prevent serious injury or fatal collisions. Things like being respectful of how you're operating on the roadway, anticipating other people's actions and not riding in their blind spots, those kind of things. But really, it's a shared responsibility for all drivers on the road to work towards safety. So that means anticipating what they're going to do, preparing when you're coming up to intersections, and ensuring you have good visibility and that they can see you, because as a rider, you're definitely a smaller platform on the roadway, and some of the other drivers aren't necessarily anticipating you to be there or be there as quickly. So just really have good situational awareness around yourselves, and focus on the task at hand. It's pretty easy to get complacent with driving, and I'm sure you have one close call and it's a quick reminder. So just really good awareness, judgment, and paying attention to what's going on around you.
So you mentioned the visibility side of it. There's 4 words that we often hear after a motorcycle collision. I didn't see him. Is there, how, in the city, there's a lot more traffic out there. When you're out in rural areas, how do you not see? What do car drivers see that we don't?
I think sometimes it's just a matter of they may not see you as quickly, or they look 1 minute, and then when they go to check again, the motorcycle is there just because they're there more quickly. They have an ability to accelerate rapidly. So sometimes it is just their awareness as well, and we have to drive to the limitations of everybody on the road. As experienced as a rider as you may be, we all know that there's drivers out there who may not be paying as much attention. Distracted driving continues to be a problem, and we see that. So the best way to avoid that is just to operate as if everybody can't see you, and make sure that you're aware of everything.
So basically, at the end of the day, the take home from all of this is we are responsible for our own actions on the road, and traffic safety starts with each individual road user, correct?
Exactly. And I really encourage the non-motorcycle riders too to pay attention and anticipate. It's everyone's job to make sure the roads are safe.
As I understand it, you are our only non-motorcycle rider panelist today. So we appreciate your point of view on that, reminding especially the drivers as well. Because last year with the statistics, we're going to get into some statistics here from last year. Although we did see a higher level of single vehicle collisions, it doesn't let drivers off the hook. But let's talk last year. Last year we had 21 fatalities in Alberta, and that was up from 2019 where we only saw 11. The largest age group of the fatals were between the ages of 30 and 49. If we look at drilling down to the type of motorcycle that was involved in these collisions, the majority were known as sport bikes. However, there were a few that we didn't know what category they fell in. Sometimes we're unable to get all of the statistics until they're officially released. So those don't look like really favorable numbers. And then as I had mentioned, 70% of the collisions were single vehicle versus 30%. Some of the causes or suspected causes of these collisions are listed as speed, there's a medical episode, struck a pole, struck a guardrail, lost control, a head-on collision, stunting, racing, not on the track, vehicle ran a stop sign, and crossed center. I'm going to go to Stuart on this first and ask him his opinion on these causes of collision and his opinion on these statistics from last year.
Thank you, Liane. Yeah, certainly it's unfortunate and discouraging to see such a jump in 1 year like that. And I know some of the other panelists have some thoughts on that. But of course, your own individual safety as a rider is number one. You're capable of making your own good and bad choices as an individual. And there's very little between you and the road besides the protective gear you have. If you're doing everything right, fantastic. And of course, another motorist can still be wrong, and you probably are going to be on the losing end of it. But as far as single bike crashes go, that's, unless there's other mitigating factors, that is certainly up to the individual rider to be as safe as he or she can. But when we start dealing with second and third parties or other circumstances that pop up, that just goes to the experience and the ability of the individual rider to deal with that as best they can.
And Chad, a lot of these, unfortunately, were in southern Alberta last year. You guys saw an increase just specifically in the Calgary area. Can you speak a bit to that, as well as how we have unfortunately started off this riding season with the double fatal near Canmore and Cochrane?
Yeah, you bet. Unfortunately, last year we had 5 fatal motorcycle collisions in Calgary, which is the highest number since 2016. Normally we a year, and that's out of 95 collisions involving motorcycles in Calgary. So it was definitely a higher year than we expect. And even in relation to just overall traffic fatalities, it was a higher year than normal. And whether that's due to reduced volumes on the roadway and people ramping up their speed a bit, or other factors, it's discouraging that way. So hopefully we can have a better year this year. And the one near Cochrane here just recently was sad too, involving multiple motorcycles.
Yeah, it's rare that you see a head-on collision between 2 motorcycles. I don't think I've heard that too much in the past. Rarity for sure. Spencer, our youngest panelist by far. Sorry.
No, I can hear you. I'm right here.
You already dated yourself with the bikes.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So, as a young rider on Alberta roadways, what is your position on safe riding, and what kind of things can you remind people of your age group about?
Yeah, well, Chad put it really well. You can pretty much only control your own habits and what gear you're wearing. So, riding conservatively and wearing the proper gear is obviously a big one. What I always tell new riders, and I'll actually be teaching my girlfriend how to ride this summer too, so I'm going to be drilling this into her as well, but act like you're invisible when you're on the road. Don't hang around in people's blind spots, because you can only control your own riding. You can't control what the other drivers are doing. So if there's no cars around you, there's not a whole lot that cars can do to you. So yeah, definitely just act like you're invisible, because a lot of the times, as far as cars are concerned, we are. So just bearing that in mind is a really good safety lesson there.
Yeah, and for the more experienced riders out there, a longtime friend of AMSS and all of us once told me, once you think you know everything about that motorcycle, it is going to teach you a really hard lesson.
Yep.
So never stop growing, never stop training. There's so many programs out there. So one thing that I didn't let you guys know is we're going to show you our newest PSA. Before we get to that, I do want to thank Daryl McIntyre from our Alberta Zone, Daryl McIntyre, for voicing our spots that have been playing on the radio already this year. We have gotten a lot of feedback, and we appreciate everybody's comments about our PSAs. Sean, you got to participate at the start of AMSS in the We Are campaign to remind people we're all somebody. What was your experience?
Well, let me first off tell you that I hate that I sold that bike.
Your PSA.
That bike that was in that PSA was a 1968 Hodaka Ace.
Oh, I thought it was a BSA.
No, I used my Hodaka for that. And the B. I've sold the BSA too. COVID, right? I had to get rid of a bunch of stuff. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, every time I watch it, I shed a little tear for that bike.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
rare.
We'll take it down from YouTube.
It's okay. No, you can keep it up. It's all good. Because it's one of those things when you see me on that bike, people laugh and laugh. Because it's just...
It's such a little bike.
Well,
yes.
I look like I was part of a circus group or something.
Yeah, exactly. So our PSA this year is tips for riders. A special thank you goes out to the Alberta Safety Council for their assist in our stunt riders in this. The PSA was created by Production World, of course, one of our biggest partners, and with funding from the U of A Injury Prevention Funds. So, without further ado, this is our new PSA for television this year.
The Alberta Motorcycle Safety Society reminds you that braking is not an exact science. Different vehicles, different braking times and conditions. Following too close further compounds the problem. Not seeing gravel and potholes adds to the danger. Pay close attention to stop signs and traffic lights. Remember, even a fender bender can kill a motorcyclist. This message from the Alberta Motorcycle Safety Society.
We have fun every year creating something new for you guys. Stuart, what's your opinion of our new PSA for this year?
It was very excellent. It's very clear and to the point, and it makes a very valid message in there around even a small impact can have a devastating effect to a rider. The kinetic energy coming from a vehicle into a motorcycle is going to be absorbed somewhere, and unfortunately, it's going to be the occupant of the bike. So keep your head up.
Absolutely. Chad, do you have any comments of our new PSA?
I think it looks great. It's always a good reminder to try to do your best to be as safe as you can and to anticipate what other people are doing. So it's easy to get complacent, so these reminders never hurt.
Spencer, your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Complacency is like the biggest enemy of safety, and I like how the PSA didn't mince any words, because it is a very real possibility that if every time you throw your leg over your bike, you could die that day. So the more things you can do to mitigate those risks, the better.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to look within our own community, but it's always a good reminder, right, Sean?
Knock on wood. I've never had an issue out there on the roads yet, but I think I'm going to start watching. Is that available on YouTube too?
It will be up later today.
Because I'm going to watch it before every ride, because I need that reminder. It's nice to have that reminder that things can change on in an instant when you're out there. So
yeah, and
I appreciate
again,
it.
we're in control of our own actions.
Absolutely.
So as long as we're always making sure we have that out, that, when we're riding.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much this is so different this year with a panel rather than having speeches. I really hope everybody out there enjoyed it. I want to send a special thank you out to all of Alberta media for once again stepping up to air the PSAs throughout the province. Always grateful for the continued generosity and partnership in safety and awareness. Thank you all to the guests, and a huge, huge thank you to Production World. So once again, Honorable Ric McIver couldn't be here today. Deputy Chief Tawfik, who is with us, Stuart Brideaux from Calgary as well with EMS, Sean Burke, and Spencer Bevan. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and take care out there.